Do you still remember the fighters, the villains, and Lion Gaultier's world in Lionheart? What looked like a classic action film hides a darker reality behind the scenes. In 2026, some are gone forever, some have vanished into silence, and others are battling illness and addiction. This is the Lionheart cast then and now, and you won't recognize them today. Deborah Renard as Cynthia Caldera. Deborah Renard was born on November 4, 1959, in Los Angeles, California, USA. At 30 years old, she played Cynthia Caldera, the manipulative businesswoman connected to Lion Gaultier's underground fighting world in Lionheart, 1990. Cynthia Caldera is a strategic and emotionally detached woman operating behind financial and criminal networks to manipulate the underground fighting world around Lion Gaultier's journey. Her role added a sharp layer of tension to the film, highlighting the hidden corruption behind Lion Gaultier's journey. Behind this on-screen image, Deborah Renard lived a far more introspective and emotionally sensitive life. Her childhood was deeply affected by the sudden death of her father, which left her family in financial hardship and emotional instability. This early loss shaped her reserved personality and the way she approached her acting career. It became even more evident later in life as her career momentum slowed after the peak success of the television series Dallas. While she remained active through the 1980s and early 1990s, opportunities gradually declined, and her presence in Hollywood faded over time. The most painful chapter in her personal life came in 2012 when her nearly 20-year marriage to writer and director Paul Haggis ended in a difficult divorce involving emotional strain and custody-related disputes that deeply affected her two sons. After this period of personal breakdown, she made a conscious decision to withdraw from the entertainment industry. Now, at 67 years old, Deborah Renard lives a private and reclusive life away from Hollywood, occasionally appearing only in small charity-related events. Still, she is best remembered as Cynthia Caldera, the controlled and strategic presence in Lionheart. Vojislav Govedarica as Sergeant Hartog. Vojislav Govedarica was born on August 21, 1940, in the former Yugoslavia. At 50 years old, he played Sergeant Hartog, the military sergeant working as an enforcement officer connected to Lion Gaultier's past in Lionheart, 1990. Sergeant Hartog is a strict military authority who represents discipline and control, standing in contrast to the chaotic underground fighting world and influencing Lion's earlier path before he enters the illegal circuit. His appearance added a layer of seriousness and institutional weight to the film's narrative. Growing up in a region devastated by war, Govedarica's childhood was shaped by violence, instability, and the psychological impact of conflict, which later influenced both his worldview and acting style. He appeared in European productions such as The Balkan Express, 1983, and Warriors of the Shadows, 1987, but his outspoken personality and political views often limited his opportunities beyond regional cinema. His personal life was equally turbulent, especially his marriage to actress Jelena Milic, which began as a celebrated union but quickly deteriorated into a highly publicized and painful divorce involving accusations of infidelity and emotional abuse. This breakdown also contributed to a growing emotional distance between him and his children, who gradually withdrew from his life over the years. Govedarica passed away on December 5, 2023, at the age of 83, due to natural age-related causes. He died in his homeland after spending his final years in poor health and financial difficulty, largely removed from the industry he once worked in. His name is now most often recalled through small supporting roles like Sergeant Hartog in Lionheart, marking the quiet end of a life shaped by conflict both on and off screen. Jean-Claude Van Damme as Lion Gaultier. Jean-Claude Van Damme was born on October 18, 1960, in Brussels, Belgium. At 29 years old, he played Lion Gaultier, the French Foreign Legion deserter and underground fighter in Lionheart, 1990. Leon Gaultier is a man who escapes military life and enters illegal street fighting to survive, driven by loyalty, survival instinct, and the desperate need to protect his brother's family. His role gave the film its emotional backbone, turning a raw action story into a mix of brutality and personal sacrifice. Behind this on-screen toughness was a private life filled with emotional instability and intense personal pressure. Van Damme's relationships often attracted public attention, especially his marriage to bodybuilder Gladys Portugues in 1987. They had 2 children, Christopher and Bianca, but their marriage went through repeated cycles of separation and reconciliation, creating ongoing emotional strain that followed him throughout his career. That instability gradually extended into his personal health and mental well-being over the years. He later admitted struggling with severe cocaine addiction and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, both of which deeply affected his emotional control and contributed to unpredictable phases in his professional and private life. These struggles unfolded during a period when Hollywood itself was changing, making it harder for action stars of his style to maintain their earlier dominance. Now at 66 years old, Jean-Claude Van Damme is living a quieter life compared to his peak fame. With an estimated net worth of around $40 million, he continues to appear occasionally in films and interviews, reflecting on a career shaped by global success, personal battles, and lasting influence in action cinema. Harrison Page as Joshua Eldridge. Harrison Page was born on August 27, 1940, in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. At 48 years old, he played Joshua Eldridge, the experienced mentor and trainer of Leon Gaultier in Lionheart, 1990. Joshua Eldridge is a steady and grounded figure who helps guide Lion through the dangerous world of underground fighting, offering discipline and emotional balance. His presence gave the film a human center within its intense action-driven storyline. As his acting career developed, Harrison Page also faced challenges in his personal life that shaped his long-term journey. His marriage eventually ended in divorce after years of emotional strain, leaving him as a single father and forcing him to balance family responsibilities with the demands of an uncertain Hollywood career. During the same period, his professional opportunities were also limited by the realities of the industry at the time. Although he delivered strong performances in projects such as Sledgehammer and various television roles, he was often cast in supporting or stereotyped parts, which made long-term career growth more difficult and financially unstable during certain periods of his life. In 2026, at 85 years old, Harrison Page is living a quiet retirement away from the entertainment industry. With his decades of steady work in television and film, he remains respected for his enduring career and is still remembered as Joshua Eldridge, the calm and guiding mentor in Lionheart. Stefanos Miltsakakis as Jeep Driver. Stefanos Miltsakakis was born on June 15, 1959, in Greece. At 30 years old, he played Jeep Driver, the transport driver who works for the underground fight organizers in Lionheart, 1990. The Jeep driver is the man responsible for driving fighters between locations and managing movement for illegal matches, quietly supporting the brutal fighting system that surrounds Leon Gaultier's journey. His role added background realism to the film's gritty action setting. Stefanos built his life around martial arts and physical performance after moving from Greece to the United States, but despite his strong athletic background, Hollywood rarely offered him meaningful opportunities beyond small supporting or stunt-related roles. This limited career path left him struggling financially for long periods, as consistent work in the film industry was difficult to secure. His personal life was marked by repeated hardship, including a short-lived marriage that ended in divorce and a complete breakdown of his family relationships as his daughter eventually cut contact with him. Over time, financial pressure, combined with ongoing health issues linked to years of physical strain, contributed to severe depression and long-term emotional isolation, leaving him increasingly withdrawn from public life. Stefanos Miltsakakis passed away on January 10, 2019, at the age of 59 due to natural causes. He died in relative obscurity, far from the Hollywood world. His life is often remembered only in niche action film circles, where his brief appearance in Lionheart remains a small but lasting part of his legacy. Lisa Pelican as Helene Gaultier. Lisa Pelican was born on July 12, 1954, in Berkeley, California, USA. At 36 years old, she played Helene Gaultier, Lion Gaultier's ex-wife in Lionheart, 1990. Helene Gaultier appears as a quiet, emotional thread in Leon's life, a woman whose past relationship with him still echoes through his present struggles and decisions. Her role brought emotional grounding to the story, balancing the film's intense action with personal drama. As her career developed, Lisa Pelican showed early promise through roles such as Julia, 1977, building a reputation as a capable dramatic actress. However, after Lionheart, her film career gradually slowed, with fewer leading opportunities arriving in Hollywood. The shift in the industry, combined with changing casting trends, made it increasingly difficult for her to maintain the momentum she once had in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Her personal life also went through significant emotional challenges. She married director Rick Rosenthal, but the relationship eventually ended in divorce after years of strain, and the couple did not have children. Following the separation, she experienced long periods of isolation, and the combination of limited career opportunities and emotional loss led to episodes of depression that affected her ability to continue working steadily in film and television. Now, at 72 years old, Lisa Pelican is fully retired from acting and lives a quiet, private life away from public attention. With her earlier film and television work, she remains best remembered as Helene Gaultier, the emotional connection in Lionheart who quietly shaped the story's human side. Ashley Johnson as Nicole Gaultier. Ashley Johnson was born on August 9, 1983, in Camarillo, California, USA. At 7 years old, she played Nicole Gaultier, Lion Gaultier's daughter in Lionheart, 1990. In the film, Nicole appears as a small child whose presence constantly reminds Lion of the normal family life he is trying to protect. Her presence in the film added emotional depth, giving Lion's violent journey a personal reason to fight for survival and redemption. Growing up in Hollywood from the age of 6, Ashley Johnson quickly became a well-known child actress through projects like Growing Pains. But early fame came with overwhelming pressure. Losing a normal childhood and constantly being watched by the public created long-term emotional stress, and as she grew older, she struggled with identity and the challenge of separating herself from her child star image while trying to build a serious acting career. That struggle gradually turned into transformation as she rebuilt herself in the industry through voice acting and dramatic roles. She eventually became one of Hollywood's most respected voice actresses, earning widespread recognition and a BAFTA award for her role as Ellie in the Last of Us franchise. This success marked a major turning point in her life, allowing her to step beyond childhood fame and establish a respected adult career in both gaming and television. By 2026, at 43 years old, Ashley Johnson continues working actively in the entertainment industry, focusing mainly on voice acting and selective acting projects. With an estimated net worth of $5 million, she lives a private life away from excessive media attention and is best remembered as Nicole Gaultier. Brian Thompson as Russell. Brian Thompson was born on August 28, 1959, in Ellensburg, Washington, USA. At 30 years old, he played Russell, a dangerous enforcer connected to the criminal underworld in Lionheart, 1990. Russell enters the story as a physically imposing fighter whose loyalty belongs to the violent underground circuit, bringing an immediate sense of threat whenever he appears on screen. His role added tension and physical danger to the film's action-driven storyline. Throughout his career, Thompson became widely recognized for playing tough, antagonistic roles in films such as The Terminator, 1984, and Cobra, 1986. While this gave him steady work in action cinema, It also limited his ability to expand into more diverse roles, creating growing frustration with the direction of his career over time. In his personal life, he experienced 2 marriages that eventually ended in divorce, leaving emotional scars that were compounded by strained relationships with his children due to his demanding work schedule. Over time, these personal setbacks contributed to a prolonged period of depression, during which he sought psychological support, while also facing financial pressure caused by unsuccessful investments and lifestyle adjustments. In 2026, 67 years old, Brian Thompson is living a quieter life focused on stability and rebuilding family relationships. With his decades of steady acting work, he remains known in Hollywood for his villain roles and is remembered as Russell. Michel Kisi as Mustafa. Michel Kisi was born on September 12, 1960, in Morocco. At 28 years old, he played Mustafa, a brutal underground fighter in Lionheart, 1990. Mustafa steps into the tournament as a physically dominant and aggressive combatant, making him one of the most feared opponents Lion Gaultier faces in the underground circuit. His presence intensified the brutality of the underground world, making every fight feel more unpredictable and physically dangerous. Michel Kisi built his career alongside his close friend Jean-Claude Van Damme, gaining attention for his role as Tong Po in Kickboxer. But he never fully reached leading star status in Hollywood. Instead, he was repeatedly cast in supporting or minor roles, often with limited dialogue, which restricted his ability to break away from the shadow of his early martial arts image. His personal life also faced major instability, especially after his marriage in the early 1990s ended in divorce following years of conflict and emotional strain. At the same time, financial pressure began to build as acting opportunities became less consistent, forcing him to take on physical labor outside the film industry to support his 2 children. Years of performing dangerous martial arts scenes also left lasting damage on his body, with untreated injuries developing into chronic bone and joint conditions that worsened significantly with age. In 2026, at 64 years old, Michel Kisi is living a quieter life away from Hollywood. His legacy survives mainly through martial arts cinema fans who still associate him with the raw intensity of 80s and 90s action films, especially the underground fighting world he helped bring to life in Lionheart. Clement von Frankenstein as English investor. Clement von Frankenstein was born on April 14, 1944, in England. At 46 years old, he played English investor, the foreign business investor involved in financing the underground fighting operations in Lionheart, 1990. His brief appearance helped expand the film's world beyond the ring, showing how power and money quietly shaped the system behind the fights. Born into a European aristocratic family with strong artistic traditions, Clement was raised in privilege but often lived a turbulent personal life marked by emotional instability and rebellion against expectations. He appeared in projects such as The Man Who Knew Too Little, 1997, and several British television productions, yet his career never moved beyond supporting roles, leaving him outside the mainstream Hollywood spotlight he once aimed for. His personal relationships were deeply unstable, as both of his marriages ended in painful divorces marked by emotional strain and long-term conflict. Over time, he became estranged from his children, with communication breaking down completely for years. His struggles with alcohol and substance abuse gradually worsened, consuming both his finances and health, and leaving him increasingly isolated as he aged. Clement von Frankenstein passed away on May 9, 2019, at the age of 74 due to hypoxia-related complications. He died in the United States after years of declining health and addiction-related damage, with little of his earlier aristocratic promise remaining. His legacy is often remembered only in small supporting roles like the English investor in Lionheart, which now stands as one of his final screen appearances. Ash Adams as Francois, Jason Adams. Ash Adams was born on September 7, 1963, in the United States. At 27 years old, he played Francois, a young underground fighter in Lionheart, 1990. Francois appears as a rising competitor driven by ambition, but trapped in a system where survival matters more than skill or reputation. His role added extra depth to the competition structure surrounding Leon Gaultier's fights. Ash Adams began his career with strong potential in Hollywood, appearing in television and film projects that initially suggested a promising future. However, personal instability gradually began to affect both his career and private life, leading to a steady decline in opportunities as the industry moved away from him. By the late 1990s, his marriage collapsed after years of conflict, which also led to a painful separation from his only daughter. Around the same time, he fell into substance abuse, which severely damaged his reputation and resulted in financial ruin. As a result, he was quietly pushed out of Hollywood, spending years struggling with isolation and instability away from public attention. Now, at 63 years old, Ash Adams lives a very private life, far from the entertainment world. The name Francois today survives more in cult action film discussions than in mainstream cinema memory, marking the quiet disappearance of a once promising Hollywood path. Lawrence Bender as Garage Fight Heckler. Lawrence Bender was born on October 17, 1957, in the United States. At 32 years old, he played Garage Fight Heckler, a mocking spectator in Lionheart, 1990. The Garage Fight Heckler appears briefly during the underground garage fight scene, shouting insults and provoking the fighters, helping amplify the raw, chaotic atmosphere of the illegal match environment. His small role added texture to the scene, making the underground fighting world feel louder, harsher, and more unpredictable. Outside of his cameo, Lawrence Bender became one of Hollywood's most influential film producers, building his legacy through collaborations with Quentin Tarantino on landmark films such as Pulp Fiction, 1994, and Inglourious Basterds, 2009, both of which earned multiple Academy Award nominations. His success positioned him at the center of modern independent cinema, shaping the careers of major directors and defining a new era of storytelling in Hollywood. However, his professional achievements came with significant personal and professional turbulence. His marriage to producer Stacy Sher eventually ended in a highly stressful and expensive divorce, fueled by mounting pressure from demanding film schedules and creative conflicts. Over time, his reputation within the industry also faced challenges due to reported tensions on set and strained relationships with longtime collaborators, creating a more complicated image behind his public success. In 2026, at 69 years old, Lawrence Bender continues to work selectively in the film industry while maintaining a lower public profile. His name remains closely tied to the rise of modern independent cinema. Billy Blanks as African Legionnaire. Billy Blanks was born on September 1, 1955, in Erie, Pennsylvania, USA. At 34 years old, he played African Legionnaire, a foreign mercenary fighter in Lionheart, 1990. His role added physical intensity and global scale to the film's brutal fight world. Blanks grew up facing physical and social challenges, including a hip joint disorder that limited his movement and made him a target of childhood bullying. Instead of being discouraged, he turned to martial arts at a young age, studying karate and taekwondo after being inspired by Bruce Lee. This determination eventually shaped his future as a world-class martial artist, leading him to compete at national-level tournaments throughout the 1980s and earn a bronze medal at the 1981 World Games, later becoming a respected champion in competitive karate. As his athletic career developed, he transitioned into film through supporting roles in action and martial arts movies such as King of the Kickboxers and Blood Fist. His Hollywood entry began unexpectedly when he worked as a bodyguard during the filming of Driving Force, 1988, where his presence impressed producers and led to on-screen opportunities. Around the same time, he created the Taebo fitness system, blending martial arts and boxing, which later exploded into a global fitness phenomenon through televised workout tapes and celebrity endorsements. Now 69 years old, Billy Blanks is still alive and remains active in fitness-related projects while occasionally appearing in motivational and religious programs. With an estimated net worth built from his Taibo empire and entertainment career, he is remembered not only as the African legionnaire in Lionheart, but also as the man who transformed martial arts into a worldwide fitness revolution. George McDaniel as Adjutant. George McDaniel was born on June 30th, 1942, in St. Louis, Missouri, USA. At 47 years old, he played Adjutant, the military assistant officer connected to Leon Gaultier's background in Lionheart, 1990. The adjutant is a disciplined support officer who operates within the military structure surrounding Leon's past, representing order, hierarchy, and the strict command system that shapes the early framework of his journey. His role added a sense of institutional realism to the film's military elements. McDaniel built his acting career through steady supporting roles in both film and television, with notable appearances in This Is Spinal Tap, 1984, and The Last Starfighter, 1984. While never reaching leading man status, he became a reliable character actor known for portraying authority figures, military personnel, and grounded professional roles across different productions in the 1980s and 1990s. In his personal life, George McDaniel lived a relatively private existence, staying away from major Hollywood publicity while continuing to work consistently as a supporting actor. Unlike many in the industry, his career was defined more by stability than by public scandal, allowing him to maintain a quiet professional life across several decades in entertainment. George McDaniel passed away on March 24, 2023, at the age of 80 in Ventura, California. He died of natural causes and was laid to rest in the United States, leaving behind a modest but respected body of work. His legacy is remembered through his steady presence in supporting roles, including his appearance as the adjutant in Lionheart, which remains one of his recognizable screen credits. So, after revisiting the cast of Lionheart, 1990, we've seen how each actor followed a very different path, with some rising to global fame, while others faded into silence, struggle, or a quiet private life away from Hollywood. Which cast member's transformation surprised you the most? If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more then versus now, cast stories, and untold Hollywood histories.